thank you so much for coming and joining me for this talk about how to reduce your risk for falls while living with Parkinson's, especially given that it is such a beautiful day out today. So just a little bit about me. I've been a PT for over 10 years. I am the founder and owner of Engage and do research and teaching at Upstate. And you may also know me from joining the Moving Big or Brain and Balance class or Walking Pole class with Empower. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about falls. And then Parkinson's specific information related to falls and balance. And then the most important thing, what you can do for yourself to help us stay balanced and reduce our fall risk. So what is a fall? According to the World Health Organization, a fall is defined as an event which results in a person coming to rest inadvertently on the ground or floor or other lower level. I put this in because I will oftentimes ask individuals about their falls, how frequently they've fallen, and they may say, I haven't had a fall in years. But when we delve in a little bit deeper about their balance and falls, they may tell me, well, when I'm walking down the hall, I'm sort of bouncing, off the wall, or I may trip and catch myself on the table or couch. Well, in physical therapy world, we count all of those as falls because you didn't mean to land on the wall or the couch or the table. And so that really provides some helpful insight for me about what is your balance looking like in everyday life. So here are some stats. So a third of adults over the age of 65 have a fall at least once a year. And 87% of fractures in older adults are due to falls. And 47% of non-injured seniors who fall cannot get up without assistance. So this is a plug. Everyone has asked me about why on Wednesdays we still have to get down on the floor to do mat work. It is because I want us to practice getting up and down from the floor at least once a week. Because I think that's a really helpful life skill to have. So mat day for big is never going away. Oop. Okay, so in a review of 22 research studies, they found that 60.5% of people living with Parkinson's experienced at least one fall, and 39% of those reported recurrent falls. And the majority of these studies, they used the same definition that I use of falls. So either ending up on the floor or on a lower surface. And I thought that this was really powerful, is that if you fell into that recurrent faller group, is that on average per year, you had between 4.7 and 67.6 falls per person per year. And so this is something that we can change and modify. And I think that's really powerful. So there are a lot of factors associated with recurrent falls. So one thing is that you have a history of falls, that can play a role in having another fall. And this is specifically for Parkinson's. Having Parkinson's for a longer time or having more severe symptoms, increased motor impairment. So having more of the motor symptoms associated with Parkinson's. And that could be, trunk rigidity, it could be freezing, tremor, treatment with dopamine agonists. And so this really looked at, were people just taking a carbidopa levodopa, or did they need to take multiple different types of medications to help manage their symptoms? Increased medication dosage, and that wasn't specific to carbidopa levodopa. It was looking at, again, global Parkinson's medications. Cognitive impairment, fear of falling. So that I think actually should be at the very top, because if you are nervous about falls, that really can increase your risk for falls. Freezing of gait, and then reduced physical activity. So these sound pretty serious. So, you may be wondering, can anything really be done? And the answer is yes, of course. So here are some questions that I want to ask. Have you asked yourself about your balance and your falls? Have you had a fall, or are you worried about falls? Have you noticed a change in your balance? And I typically will look at a couple different time frames. I may look at 1 year, 6 months, and then 1 month, because those time points also give us an idea about change over time. Do you notice a change in your memory or thinking? So, are you able to do 2 things at once? That can sometimes be impacted by Parkinson's and can increase your risk for falls. Are there specific situations that are challenging, or you notice that your balance is something that you struggle with? That could be, how you enter or exit your home. It could be just that your step is really high, or you have to navigate, some uneven ground. It could be a threshold to get into your kitchen. Every time you come to it, it may be a trigger for freezing. And so just thinking about your everyday activities, are there specific things that may feel challenging? Have you had physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy recently? And if so, did they take a look at your balance and falls and ask you about your falls? What is your current exercise program? And could it be better? And we'll get into that a little bit more. So let's talk about what are the first steps to take if you are feeling like balance and falls are something that you want to conquer. Getting your hearing checked, vision checked. Especially if you have diabetes, having your feet taken a look at, and then bone density. So hearing and vision especially can really impact your balance. If you're not able to take in all of the outside environmental cues, whether from vision or from hearing, that can really put you at risk for falls. The next thing is just being aware of, again, those challenge areas. Where do you notice that your balance feels more challenged? Where in the past month or 6 months or a year have you had falls or frequent falls? So continue with some first steps, home modifications. So these can be basic things, like having a grab bar in your shower. If you have a step that is a challenge for you to get in, having a handrail installed. Making sure that you have good lighting. Let's say you have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, making sure that you have a night light, or they even sell motion detector night lights. So that way they're not on all the time. Talking to your doctor about your medications, because medications can definitely play a role in your balance and your risk for falls. Requesting a referral for PT, OT, or speech therapy, because we all can help with balance and falls. And then if you're not regularly exercising, start exercise program or improve your exercise program. So these are all actionable things that you can start today doing. So if you're thinking about your fall history or your balance where you're having difficulty, here are some guided questions to help you just start that thought process. When you are feeling you're having balance issues, or when you may notice a fall, is it happening at a specific time of day? Is it happening when you're having fluctuations in your medication? So, especially for medications like carbidopa, levodopa, if you've been on it for a little while, you can experience times where you are able to move a lot more easily, which would be considered on times. And then as that medication is trailing off, you may have more difficulty with your movements, which would be considered an off time. Another thing to ask yourself is, when you're having falls, are you experiencing lightheadedness or dizziness? So with Parkinson's, blood pressure changes can happen. And so a follow-up question is, do you have a blood pressure monitor at home? Because that may be something really helpful to track, is when you do have balance issues, what does your blood pressure look like? Is it either really high or really low? Another question is, are you rushing? So when you're rushing, you may not be moving as big as you can. Your steps may be really small. You may be more forward flexed. Are you distracted? So again, working on doing two things at once. Do falls happen in a certain place, either within your home or out in the community, or a certain situation? So going to the home modification, so just a couple suggestions that you can do today is, if you have any type of obstacles, this could be a throw rug, it could be a power cord that are in your common walking paths. Try to get that out of the way so you have a clear place to walk. If you have stairs, and this can be to get in to your home or to get to a different floor, making sure you have a handrail, and having grab bars in the bathroom where needed. Making sure that the areas in your home, especially at night, are well lit. And so having a nightlight, especially motion sensitive nightlight, because the feedback I get so often from individuals is they don't want to have a light on all the time at night because it can impact their sleep. And so I really have found that the motion sensitive night lights are the best of all worlds. Using paint or painter's tape on door thresholds, and especially using a bright color to help avoid tripping. And I do have a picture of that. And then wearing just smart footwear. So like if you notice that you have a hard time keeping your balance, or you notice you're tripping, if you wear flip-flops or slippers without a back, just making sure that you have a good supportive shoe that you're wearing both inside and outside of the home. All right, so this is that picture of using a brightly colored piece of electrical tape just to help with a threshold. So this is about a 1/2 inch threshold. And so it just gives you that visual reminder that you need to step. Another great thing to do, and this is definitely working with your primary care doctor or your neurologist, is optimizing your medication. So often if someone's having mobility or balance and falls issues, I ask people to track what is going on. And then also, where are you in your medication cycle? Because you may not even notice that there's this correlation between, as your medicine is starting to trail off, when you may have more issues with freezing or just more balance issues or more difficulty doing two things at once. And so really tracking to see if there is any correlation or flow in your day can be really helpful. And then you can take that to see your neurologist, and it really gives a lot more concrete information for them to see patterns. Monitoring your blood pressure. it is really helpful because Parkinson's and carbidopa levodopa can both lower your blood pressure. And so for some people, when they change positions, going from laying down to sitting or standing, or from sitting to standing, can have drops in their blood pressure, which can make them feel lightheaded. And so just if that's something you're noticing as being a correlation with your balance or falls, you definitely want to try to keep an eye on that. And what that may mean, talking to your neurologist about adjusting your medications or the time of your medications, and then increasing your fluid intake. And I think everyone, I haven't met anyone who doesn't need more water. So that can definitely help with blood pressure. And then another question, to talk to your neurologist about is if one of your medications is in the family of a benzodiazepine, because there is quite a bit of research that family of medication can really increase people's risk for falls. And then here's my plug for physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. So all three of these types of therapies can help reduce your falls in different ways. And I think sometimes it's really helpful to really attack balance and falls, especially recurrent falls, from different angles. So physical therapy, we work on balance exercises. We work on walking. We work on being able to get up from the floor and doing multitasking. Occupational therapy is going to be focused on doing your activities of daily living, like bathing, dressing, eating, and multitasking. And then speech therapy, it will work on your breathing. They can work on your voice volume and your voice clarity, and multitasking. So multitasking is the common theme between all three, and that can really help quite a bit with balance issues. And exercise. So PTOT and speech therapy can also help you get started on a comprehensive exercise program. And I really want to stress comprehensive because so often people will say, well, I am exercising. But so many of the issues that pop up in Parkinson's really do require a comprehensive approach where you are getting an individualized plan and specific things that you are targeting or focusing on. I love this study. This is one of my favorites. So it's a little bit older, it's 10 years old. And the question was asking about vigorous aerobic exercise. Is this neuroprotective? And what we've seen over the last 10 years is that in mice models it is, and there is emerging information over the last year or so that it seems that way in people too, which is really exciting. And one of the conclusions from this paper was the idea of using your carbidopa levodopa or other dopamine therapies, so other medications, to use it as a tool to help maximize how you are moving and how you be motivated for you to be able to exercise. And I think this is such a great way to think about your medications, is you're being on ideal medications, and optimal medications helps you move optimally and helps you exercise optimally. So I think this is a wonderful paper, and this is something that I really try to have people time when they may be optimizing their medication for exercise. So you may be wondering, how should I exercise? So this study looked at the differences between group exercise, individual exercise, so one-on-one therapy, and then a home exercise program. And what they found, and this was the primary focus was looking at balance. And so what they found is that individuals who had one-on-one therapy or took group exercise classes significantly improved in all of their physical performance tests. And that those that did one-on-one therapy showed the most improvements in specific functional tasks and their balance scores. And then group exercise showed improvements in walking ability. I think what was most interesting is that the home exercise program, so doing it on your own, didn't really increase any of the testing outcomes. And another finding in this study was that individuals with Parkinson's who had either a complicated history with Parkinson's, so they may be dealing with blood pressure issues or freezing, or they may have some other health conditions like diabetes, that they did better in a program that was directly supervised by a physical therapist and doing one-on-one therapy. So what this should tell us is that we need to be involved in group exercise, and then also, seeking one-on-one therapy to really maximize how we're moving. And so a question you may have is, well, what should you be doing and how much of it should you be doing? And so I look at this as, in Parkinson's, there's two main focuses of exercise. One is progressive aerobic exercise, and this really can help with overall brain health. And so you may be wondering, well, what is progressive aerobic exercise? So this is exercise where you're working on getting your heart rate up, which can increase your blood flow to your brain. And that increased blood flow to your brain can also help your brain produce chemicals and also better use specific chemicals in your brain. And one of the main ones that is talked about is a chemical called BDNF. And examples of things that you can be doing to help get into an aerobic exercise program is walking, running, cycling, ellipticaling. So I know at the gym, they just got their bikes, which are so excited about. And the key to this is that it needs to be progressive over time. Like, you are not going to have the same exercise program for the next 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. It needs to change, and it needs to continually challenge you, which is something, in my exercise class, we really focus on. I try to give for our stations a couple choices, but I want you moving. I want you working hard the whole class. So the first type of exercise is that aerobic exercise. The second is skill-based exercise. And so this is exercise where you're trying to improve an ability to do something. So that could be learning a new skill or getting better at doing something. Again, it should always be challenging, and it's going to require attention and awareness of how you're moving. And especially as you're getting going with something like this, it's really helpful to get individual feedback or coaching. And this can be amplitude training. So like the Moving Big program, for one-on-one, the LSVT Big program or power, Tai Chi, dancing, boxing. So thinking about when you're starting out boxing and you're learning different sequences of punching or footwork, walking and gait training, especially where you're having to do two things at once, and balance training. And so, thinking about these, skilled activities in Parkinson's, the key things for us to really be focusing on are these smallness of movements and getting you to move big, slowness of movement, so trying to pick up the speed, but while also moving big. There can be some weakness, posture changes, stiffness and decreased flexibility, balance changes, decreased endurance, and then just decreased overall function, difficulty moving around house, moving in bed. And all of these can be accomplished with amplitude training. So moving bigger. And where this links back up is all of these things can help you move bigger and better. So that way you're able to keep your balance and stay more stable. So the exercise goal for amplitude training is to be moving bigger. With the increased size of movement comes also increased speed. So it's this combination. And then a lot of times when I'm starting to work with someone, they may feel like their movements are huge, exaggerated, but they're not. It's just because your movements have been small for quite a while, and there's a mismatch of how you're perceiving your movements and how they actually are. And so when we're working on amplitude training, we are still working within a normal or a healthy range of motion. Nothing we do is over exaggerated. And we work on good quality movement. And so you may, oftentimes I'll give cues about making sure we're aware of our hands and opening our hands and stretching our elbows. And the goal is to really help with rewiring the brain. So that way it becomes second nature. You're moving big throughout the day, even when you're outside of therapy or outside of exercise group, because that's going to help you function better. And it's going to help carry over to everyday activities. And so you may be wondering, how often should I be exercising? And so this research study from a group out in Oregon found that individuals who were doing well were doing well with their balance, low risk for falls, were exercising at least 3 days a week for 30 minutes. And what they really found is that optimal amount of exercise, and it could be group exercise, one-on-one therapy, was between 5 and 7 days a week. And so I think this is really powerful to help just put in exercise into context, is that you take your medicine every day. This research shows us that we need to be exercising every day for optimal outcomes. And I thought this study also was really great because they looked at individuals who had been on carbidopa-levodopa therapy for a while. And when that happens, people can end up developing something called dyskinesia or extra movement, which can be a factor for balance and fall risk. And so what they found is that this group who underwent a 4-week intensive therapy program, so they saw physical therapy and occupational therapy. It was one-on-one, and it was 5 days a week, that they were able to reduce their Parkinson's medication significantly. All of their functional outcomes improved. And what was really great is this showed that physical activity and exercise, especially very targeted exercise, could impact dyskinesia. So prior to this, study, we really thought, well, this is something that, individuals really will have to deal with. But by doing that high intensity, frequent activity and exercise, that it can really help with overall movement quality. And so we've talked a lot about the benefits. So additional benefits that you may not even think about is that it can help with your cardiovascular system, can help with osteoporosis. Aerobic activity and skill-based training have both been shown to improve cognitive function, can help with depression and improve sleep, can decrease constipation, improve fatigue, improve functional motor performance. So, that those motor tests that you have to do when you go see the neurologist every 6 months, being involved in regular exercise can help with that. Improve how you're using your medication. Okay, so I wanted us to go through just a quick balance screen. So our test is going to be standing on one leg, and I'm going to have you time yourself, and it doesn't have to be precise. You're just going to time it in seconds. Okay, so I'm going to have everyone stand on up. And I can't see everyone. Let's see. Okay. I'll give everyone one more minute to get up. Okay. So we're going to do 2 trials, 2 times on each side. Whoop. All right. So when you're ready, you're going to lift up your leg, and we're standing on one leg. I'm going to have you count it. And our goal, I'm giving everyone 30 seconds. All right, so if you're still standing, put your leg down. And now let's switch sides. All right, let's try it one more time on each side. All right, so we're switching back. All right, one more time. Okay. All right, so our test is over. Everyone can sit back down. And so researchers have looked at the average time that people in different age groups are able to stand on one leg. And so the average for someone who's between 60 and 69 is 26.9 seconds. So between 70 and 79 is 15 seconds. And then 80 and older is 1.9 seconds. So I think that this is a great place to just see where you are in comparison to someone in your age group. Sometimes that can be surprising. So every 6 months or so, my dad, who's in his 80s, we do this test. He gets a balance screen, and he is always surprised at where he is. And so I think it's just a helpful thing to touch base about. So I wanted to give you all 4 exercises that you can be working on every day to help you improve your balance. So if you've been to my class, you know how much I love stand-ups and sit-downs. One of my favorite exercises. So this is a really great exercise to do to work on your balance. Ways that you can make it more challenging is doing it faster. So really popping up and then coming down with control. Another way to make it more challenging is having a pillow underneath your feet. So that way you're having to stand up and sit down, and the surface is a little bit wobbly. The second exercise is working on standing side leg lifts. And you can do this holding on to a counter, to a chair, and you're just working on bringing your leg out to the side with control and then bringing it back in. Ways that you're going to make that harder are decreasing how much you're holding on or doing it without holding on. You can also make it more challenging by slowing that motion, really having control. The third exercise is heel raises. So working on coming up onto your toes and then coming down where you're flat foot. And what I will oftentimes remind people is imagine that there's an egg underneath your heel. And so as you're coming down, you want to have control. You don't want to have scrambled eggs. And ways that you can make it more challenging is trying to do it without holding on. Or when you get up to the top, trying to hold it for 3 seconds. And the last one is working on standing on one leg. So, you have a baseline from today where you are, and think about trying to set a goal. It could be you're working on staying in that age matched group that you're in. It could be just trying to increase your time by 5 seconds. But a goal makes it measurable and meaningful, and it's something that you're working towards. So these 4 exercises are something that you can be doing every day to help you either improve or maintain your balance. And I love this quote: if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And so much of what we're working on is making changes in your body so that way you are able to move efficiently and optimally. Your balance is strong and you're at a low risk for falling. So let me open this up to any questions you all may have. And you can just unmute yourself if you have any questions. No questions. Roseanne, you look like you're talking. Oh.
You're right. I forgot to unmute myself. I said I'll make a statement since since there wasn't any questions yet. When you mentioned about learning to get on the floor, afterwards, and my mom had turned 80 and she had Parkinson's for years and was doing great, but that's when things started to change. And she had gone in the hospital. And the first thing when she came out, that my husband said that she's got to learn to get up and down off the floor. And he had her getting down up off the floor and then crawling to get up and down. So that way she didn't have the fear if when she did fall, it was less fearful for her. And then she did learn also to crawl to a chair. She wasn't afraid anymore to do that. So it worked wonders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is definitely a goal that I work on with many people, because if you feel confident that if you did have a fall, you could get up, you have just much more confidence in how you're going to move overall.
Yes.
Any other questions about anything that we talked about today?
Liz, it's Joanne.
Hi, Joanne.
Hello. Just curious, you said that you could become our PT. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that? What do you need to have us do?
Okay, so just touching base with me, And what we do is I will get your insurance information, and then if we need authorization, I take care of all of that. And then we get scheduled. And then our first meeting is such a fun time because we go through quite a bit of testing to really take a look at how you're moving and how I can best help. And from there, we develop a plan together. So you will come to this with very, specific things that you want to improve or be able to do. And then we come up with an action plan on how we're going to make that happen. Yes, if anyone is looking for physical therapy, like please reach out to me, and I've included my contact information. One thing that Pat and I have talked about, because he was doing the assessments at the gym every 6 months, is that I will be taking those over. And I'm really looking forward to that because we're going to be tracking, how you're doing. So that way we can really see if there's been changes over, from 1 6 months period to another. If there's specific things that we should be focusing on in classes. And then I always think about physical therapy in Parkinson's, just like going to the dentist. So you go to the dentist every 6 months just to make sure you're staying on top of things, that there are no new issues that have popped up that you may not even be aware of. The same thing for physical therapy and Parkinson's. We want to make sure that you are where you were moving 6 months ago, or my ultimate goal is that you're actually doing better in your testing than you were 6 months ago. And I will a lot of times give the example of, in our big class, how everyone has gotten so much stronger with their stand-ups and sit-downs than we were a year ago. So a year ago, we did 50 total stand-ups and sit-downs, and we have increased that and been very consistent with it, that we're doing 100 total stand-ups and sit-downs now. And so think about, how much stronger your legs are, how much power you're able to generate from that. So that is a big goal that I have as we're working together and just keeping track of everyone. So if you're not sure if you're ready for one-on-one physical therapy on March 30th, it's a Tuesday, next Tuesday, I will be at the Empower Gym with a couple PT students, and we will be going through a balance screening to take a look at where your balance is compared to your age group, and then also just what is your risk for having a fall. And that's, I think, a really great thing to also be tracking. So if you're interested in that at all, you can give me a call or send me an email, and I will help you get signed up for that. So that's next Tuesday. And then I'm just looking. And then if you're interested in one-on-one therapy, you're going to use that same phone number and that same email.
Liz, any plans? This is Ron.
Yeah.
Any plans to go back to the gym like we used to have group classes in the stations and all that good stuff?
Pat and I have talked about, I think at least what we've talked about is maybe through the summer I'll still be online. I mean, things are very fluid with COVID. So I think if everyone really felt comfortable going back in person, then we would take a look at what that would look like. Some people in the group have really enjoyed the Zoom access because you didn't have to get out and leave your house. You could just exercise, first thing in the morning, and then it was out of the way. So I think, like Pat and I have talked about it, and I think we're just going to see how the next couple months goes. I know Pat's working on ramping up boxing more at the gym.
Okay. What I found interesting and useful also was the stations that we had set up and doing the different things on the stations.
Mm-hmm. I do miss being in person, and we did have a lot of very fun, creative stations.
Mhm.
So we talk about skill-based activities and learning. That was a main focus of our time when we were doing in-person class. Yeah. So Ram, at some point we're gonna see each other in person.
Okay.
I'm just
Oops.
not sure when.
I know.
I'm not sure when, but sometime.
But along with that, Ron, and what I was thinking, somebody asked me, like, well, Tammy asked me about outside. Do you think we'll do anything outside again this summer?
Walking pole group is going to definitely get started. I went to the butterfly garden actually earlier today, and the ground is not muddy. And so I just need to try to figure out my schedule for us to do a walking pole group instead of balance class this week.
Yeah.
So I'll send Pat an email after I take a look at my schedule, just to see what I can work and what works with, so I'm not conflicting with another class.
Right. And actually, this was something I wanted to ask you, Pat, too. Do you think we'll go back outside? I don't know if you heard me, Pat.
It's muted.
I'm trying to unmute.
Oh.
I am not anticipating going back out.
Okay,
You know, I'm anticipating increasing the number of boxing classes.
okay.
And then depending on attendance, we can move more quickly back to stations. The Tuesday, Thursday right now there are too many people to do stations, but the Monday and Wednesday night with only a handful of people, we could probably start to do stations there.
Oh,
And I think next we're going to move to a 1 o'clock class. And that's either going to be, Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday.
yeah, wonderful. Okay, so that's good. I had a feeling maybe just keep increasing inside with all your thing,
Yeah.
with the boxing.
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's my plan.
That's great. Okay.
And I'll put in a plug for the time being. I'm still on Zoom, and we were able to get myself and Amy DuBois, who's at Upstate. We got a small grant for heart rate monitors. And if anyone's interested, we're going to be looking at participating in my Moving Big class. I'm doing it 3 times a week, and that can either be in person or the pre-recorded that are on YouTube. And wearing a heart rate monitor, just to see how you all are working on Zoom, and if we're able to get to our target of a higher intensity heart rate. So I know quite a few of our regulars are signed up. So just a plug if you are at all interested.
What time is that going to be at?
So the class is staying the same. It's at 9 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah. And Amy literally 5 minutes before this sent me a text message that our heart rate monitors had finally arrived.
And how long is the study going?
8 weeks.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep. So you'll get to see me for 24 classes. 24 classes of fun.
Okay.
How are they going to be connected?
The heart rate monitor.
Yes.
So it's wireless. So it is a Garmin forearm heart rate monitor.
Okay.
And so it wirelessly transmits to the Garmin like heart rate monitoring app. And we're going to have like login set up so that way we're able to see the main things we're looking at is what is the heart rate range during a class, and then what is the peak heart rate, and then how long were you able to stay in your target heart rate for the class. So we will give you the login information that you could log in just to see how you're doing throughout the 8 weeks. But other than just making sure your heart rate monitor is charged before you put it on, and then wearing it for the class and letting us know what class you took, whether it was in person or recorded, is really all you have to do.
Oh. Okay.
We're trying to keep it pretty easy and just really be able to take a look at how people are exercising. Any other questions about exercise recommendations for balance? Any of the exercises, the 4 to focus on every day? Okay, you all are keeping it easy.
There's actually medication to take for falls.
No, there's medication to help with how you're moving for Parkinson's. So like carbidopa, levodopa.
I take that.
Yeah. And so, when thinking about our medication, making sure, like, if you are going to an exercise class or, having to go, say, to the grocery store, trying to make sure if you do have balance issues that you are trying to have those activities happen when you are at your peak medication or your optimal medication. So that way it's easier to move.
See, I don't find, I know the neurologist asks me every time, don't I find a difference when the time is running out from the dosage of the carbidopa, levodopa? I don't notice any difference at all.
Mm-hmm. And some people don't experience it. It can depend on your dosage. There's a lot of factors that play a role in on and off time with medication.
Mhm.
I always recommend that if people are experiencing changes, that it's really helpful to track where they are in their medication cycle, and then how they feel they're moving, or if they're having specific difficulties with movement, because that can be really helpful for the neurologist.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, if no one else has any other questions, Pat, if we can wrap up, and then I will put this up on YouTube, and Pat, I'll send you a link to it to share with everyone. I think you're muted, Pat.
It's sending me messages. I'm muted. Yes, that's fine, Liz.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you all for coming to join me, especially when the weather is so beautiful out. And if you're interested, either give me a call or shoot me an email about the balance screen next week. All right. Have a great rest of your day. You're welcome.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank
That
you.
was great.
You're welcome.
Great job.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.